So the latest project to come into the shop is a 1993 Honda CBR900RR. This is the black and silver model. There was also a blue and white same year. A very popular bike right now with collectors. It's the first generation 900RR. Really fantastic bikes. It was a game changer in the day. The client wants to move this bike on and will be selling it at auction later in the year or beginning of next year. So we're going to go through the bike, do what we would call a sympathetic restoration. Cosmetically, the bike is very, very clean, very original. It's been ridden on a regular basis, so no major refurbishment or recommissioning required. But you know, it's showing its age. It's nearly 30 years old now, and there's cosmetic work that needs to be done, some panel repair, some paint touch-up. But we're going to go through the bike anyway, the entire bike, pull it apart, check, you know, all the main components. If they need to be replaced or refurbished, we'll do that. But ordinarily, we'll just try to keep them as original as possible, clean them up, and yeah, make a really nice bike out of this. Something that, you know, any collector would be proud to have in their collection. So what I'm planning to do on this one, a little bit different to my previous videos, is kind of just do a series of videos as we progress through the restoration, just so you can see the type of work we do on these bikes. It's probably going to take about 2 to 3 months. This is not a full nut and bolt restoration like a lot of the other projects we have in the shop. But yeah, thought it would be fun to kind of take you through the process. We'll get this up on the lift now, and first thing we're going to do is a walk around and just kind of highlight some of the things we're going to have to address on the bike. So starting on the right hand side rear of the bike, we can see here the seat cowl. There's a little bit of scuff marks, a few deep scratches through to the plastic, so they'll have to be addressed. There's also a little bit of wear around the top of the cowl where the pillion seat opens and closes, which is pretty standard on these bikes. Just looking down at the exhaust, it's OE exhaust, which is fantastic, original exhaust for this bike. Paint condition is not the best. It's got a lot of stone chips, but the good thing is there's no scrapes there, so luckily the bike hasn't been down on the exhaust, which is good to see. So we'll probably just end up, I think, refinishing the exhaust and bringing it back to its original quality. So just looking at the center piece here that contains the key lock for the pillion seat, you can see on the left hand side there's a piece of the plastic that's broken off. This is actually very common on the 900RRs. I have the same thing on one of my bikes, and basically it's where the side cowls clip into the centerpiece. Basically it's very thin, not very strong design, and typically when people are removing the side cowls, they lever that up and it snaps the little tab off there. So not the easiest thing to fix. Plastic is very thin there, but we've got a process for that, and I'll take you through that at the time. So yeah, unfortunately, as with many bikes of this era, it's suffered from the obligatory fender elimination hack, and this one is not recoverable. We're not going to be able to really do anything with this. It's also got aftermarket turn signals, so for me this is always a key part of the bike. It has to be original, you know, for the bike to check all the boxes. So it's a unfortunately very rare part. Very difficult to find, but we've been rather fortunate. Found 2 fenders in Germany. We've been able to secure those. They're on their way, so we'll use 1 fender for this project, and I'll be using the other fender for one of my own projects. The fender does need a little bit of repair, but yeah, once we receive those fenders, we'll show you the repairs that we do to them before we reinstall it. Moving to the left side cowl, there's a little bit of damage here around the vent area on the protruding part of the cowl, probably due to a tip over at some point in the bike's life. It's quite deep into the plastic, so we're going to have to do some repair, localized repair work there. The rest of the cowl's in nice condition, so I really want to try and save this, keep it as original as possible. So I think we're going to attempt a very localized repair there, and then try to do a paint blend. So we'll see how that goes. Worst case scenario, if that doesn't look perfect, then we may just end up painting the entire black number board there. So just looking at the rear wheel, brakes, rotors, everything's in good working order. As I say, this bike's been ridden regularly, so generally you don't see too many issues if that's the case. Rotor's in great condition. I don't think we need to resurface that. There's no deep grooves or anything on there. Calipers don't have any leaks. Everything looks to be in good order. So I'm hoping not to have to strip these apart, but we're certainly going to, once we pull the rear wheel out, we'll have a better inspection there. The wheel, I'm hoping we can just touch up rather than repaint, but we'll have to see. Same with the calipers. We'll see what the finish looks like once we've cleaned it up and detailed it, and we'll make the decision then if we need to repaint it or not. Back to the left-hand side of the bike there, just looking at the swing arm and rear suspension area. So interestingly, at some point, somebody's plasti dipped the swing arm and the rear foot peg hangers. Luckily, that's already starting to peel off. It's because it's plasti dip, it's pretty easy to remove, unlike paint. And I think so. The only concern with that is, if it's hiding any horrors, with the aluminium finish underneath. But we'll know once we strip that back. We're going to pull the whole rear end out of the bike anyway, so we can detail around the suspension and grease all the pivot points up. You can also see here the the rear chain guard. It's faded, typical for any plastics on bikes of this age. So yeah, we'll try to restore that back to as close to original as possible. If we're not able to do that, then we'll refinish the plastic, and we have a couple of different processes that we can do there for that. So here we can see all the fuel decals are in place, which is good, and the frame actually on this bike is in excellent condition. There's no damage, no scuff marks, no dents, anything like that. It's very, very clean actually, and which is good news, because often one of the most labor-intensive parts of the project is with these brushed aluminium frames, is trying to get everything back to its original finish, and usually the frame is anodized, clear anodized. So once you remove that anodizing layer, it's very, very difficult to replicate. You can try clear coating it. There's some other techniques as well, but it's not simple. But there's some good YouTube videos on how to bring back the brushed aluminium finish. But as I said, we won't have to do that, luckily, on this project. So moving to the front of the bike, actually everything in This area is extremely clean, original, no major work to be done. The clocks are in very, very nice condition. Everything is straight, so no damage to the clip-ons. They haven't been bent at any point in time. Some of the fasteners are starting to show their age and a little corroded, so we may replate or refinish the fasteners or replace them with new. Top yoke is in great condition, no damage there. So really, I think this area is just more detailing than anything else. And again, it's been ridden regularly, so all the brake master's fine. It's good. Seals are good on there. Yeah, no major issues. So here, the inner panels for the front cowl there, these are actually not the original panels. These are off, I think, off a 95 or maybe even a 97 900RR, and they're actually quite different in the shape. They're not the right fit. I think 93 it was just 1 year only for the inner panels. Luckily, the client has been able to source some original inner panels left and right, so once we receive those, they'll be refinished and then fitted to the bike when we do the final assembly. So front cowl is in very good condition. There's no damage, which is great to see, especially around the mirror mounts, which is always the typical part to be broken off on the cows if the bike's had a tip over or gone down the road, but it's all good. So we'll just be treating this to a full detail. We may do a cut and buff on it. The screen is obviously not original. It's got a tinted screen, which is not untypical for bikes of this era. It's good condition, but we are going to try and source an OE clear screen for this if we can. Again, very difficult to find, and I think like the inner panels, 1 year only for the 93. On the 94 onwards, they changed the design slightly. So yeah, let's fingers crossed we can find an original. If not, there are aftermarket parts, and we'll just fit a clear aftermarket part to it. So the tank on this bike is actually in amazing condition. It's one of the best I've seen for a long time. No dents at all, no dings, no major scratches. Clear coat is really good condition. Decals are like new. There's a few chips on the rear of the tank, which is to be expected. So we'll touch up those paint chips, and then we'll cut and buff the tank, bring it back to its showroom-like quality. So no issues really with the mid panel on the left-hand side. It's in very, very good condition. Just some light scuff marks, which we'll just take out with a cut and buff, and then detail the panel. Same for the lower cowl. But you can see here and in the next photograph, there is damage to the engine casing there. So luckily though, the client has a new old stock cover, so we'll just be replacing that out as part of the restoration. So here I've just removed the right hand side mid panel, and we'll get to that later. There is quite a bit of damage to that panel. That's where probably the most work is going to be needed. But I just wanted to have an inspection here around the engine area, the radiator, and the headers. But everything looks really good in here. This is a low mileage bike. Engine is in excellent running condition. We'll go through if there's any consumables that need replacing. hoses, that kind of thing will do that. But I don't see any major issues here. It'll just need a good detail, good clean. So there is some light damage to the mirrors, actually both sides, left and right. It's mainly just some scratches, probably caused while the bike was stored. So just looking at the front wheel here, brakes and suspension, I think, you know, like the rear, everything's in very good condition. The rotors are great condition, and we're not going to need to refinish those or resurface the rotors. Brake calipers look good. There's no leaks. As I say, it's been regularly used, so I don't think we need to pull them apart at this stage. We will detail everything out if the calipers need to be refinished. We'll do that. But all the suspension, front forks, all the finish is in really good condition on those. So again, just detailing there. For the front wheel, once we get that out, closer inspection, we'll see if that just requires touch up or if we need to repaint, but hopefully just touch up. Yeah. So I removed the front fender just so I could get a better look around the fork area and under the cowl. There is some damage on the fender here. Looks like it's probably brake fluid that was spilt at some point in the past on the fender and left on the paint. So it's eaten through the paint down to the plastic. I don't think I'm going to attempt spot repair on this. There are some other scratches on the fender as well. So I think with the fender, we'll strip that back and repaint it. So it's going to look as good as the rest of the bike when it's done. Last but not least is the right-hand mid-fairing that we removed earlier. You can see this damage in the bottom left-hand corner. In fact, there's a large piece of the panel that's missing around the rear Zeus fastener there. I suspect in the past somebody's put excess pressure on the Zeus fastener, trying to get it to lock in place and crack the panel, and then some of the pieces have just broken away. There's some large cracks as well that emanate away from that. Luckily though, the damage is isolated to that black section of the panel. So rather than try to find an OE panel in similar condition, because the rest of the panel is great, the paint looks great, the decals are in great condition, rather than try and find a replacement panel, which I think would be difficult to do in the time frame we have, or to repaint this panel, which would be almost impossible to color match to the rest of the bike, we're going to attempt a local repair, and hopefully we can do that repair in such a way that you would actually never know that the damage was there. So that'll be one of the follow-on videos we do as part of this restoration.